Hi, this is Ian Eagle from CBS Sports. Wex On, Wex Off starts right now with Jason Wexler.
Another exciting edition of Wex On, Wex Off. Jason Wexler here with you. We go right out to the phones and waste no time. Joining us now, the voice of the NBA Finals on ESPN Radio, it's Mark Kestisher. Mark, how you doing?
Jason, good to be on with you. Thanks for checking in with me.
You're a hard guy to reach. Every time I try to reach you, you're golfing. You've been golfing, I think, three times in a row. So, are you any good by now?
You know, it's funny because my wife says the same thing. Like, when I'm not traveling and doing games, she's like, why are you always golfing? So, if you can't find me on the golf course, you usually would find me in an airport or at an NBA game or some other ESPN radio event. And the sad part, to answer your question, is I've never gotten any better. I think the best version of me as a golfer, ironically, was during the bubble in the late summer of 2020 down in Orlando, because we couldn't go anywhere. We were in the media hotel. We were basically, locked in there. I mean, I say that to say we were at a 5-star hotel with a golf course right next door and a couple of restaurants. And so every day I either golfed 9 holes, played 18 holes, or just went out and hit balls for an hour. So I had no choice but to have a better swing. Unfortunately, not practicing as much, still love to play, but shockingly, still can't score the way I'd like to score.
You got to start cheating.
You know what? That's what I found. Like, all my friends that, break 90 and get in the low 80s regularly, I'm like, they never putt out the hole. They always say, okay, I missed the par putt. That's good. That's a bogey. I wish I did that. I got a lot of 6s on my scorecard because I missed a 1.5-foot putt.
Listen, honesty is the best policy when everything else fails.
That's right. If I'm going to be shooting in the low 90s, at least I know it was truly the low 90s. I'm not kidding anybody.
So Mark, it becomes official this morning. Doris Burke will get a promotion of sorts. She's going to be calling the NBA Finals now on ESPN television with Doc Rivers and Mike Breen. Obviously, it's a big loss for you and PJ, and I'm sure you're happy for her, but you got to feel a little bad for yourself.
I am. I'm very happy for her. I think, she did the finals with us for the last 4 years. 3 in the radio booth is a trick. It's not easy. The 2 of them are seeing so much. I call myself the gas bag because we're describing as much as we can and trying to leave enough time for them to, very concisely make their points. And not only did Doris excel at that, she excelled at making sure PJ was getting involved, making sure I could still do what I had to do. And then the last few years, just watching her, how she handles herself in our pregame interviews and the respect she gets from the coaches and the great questions that she asks. I remember telling her, there's going to be a day you're going to be doing this on television. It didn't seem like a possibility because, Jeff Van Gundy, as long as he wasn't going back to the pro ranks, had still many years to go. And the same for Mark Jackson. Nobody foresaw, what was going to happen with the latest rounds of cuts. But when they were made, I texted her just, to ask, is there a chance you're going to be on the A team? And she wasn't sure, but she knew she was capable, more than capable. And so I was happy to send that text earlier today congratulating her. We will miss her, but we'll get to hang out with her. That's the good news. We'll be crossing the same circles during the finals next year.
And look, she's a fan favorite as well. For all the respect we know that she's got from the coaches and the players, from you guys, everybody could see clearly how well she does her job, how well she's prepared, and really just a pioneer to women in this industry.
Yeah, for sure, especially that last part. And there's no doubt, she played college. She's been a broadcaster for decades. She sees the game in such a good way, and even more so, it's not easy to, describe what you're seeing and, make these really interesting points, that I'm not seeing as a play-by-play guy, or even when I'm home as a viewer. And in the very few television games that I've worked with her, the one thing I also noticed, and I was still trying to work while noticing this, which, I'd have to tell myself, all right, focus on your own job, was she was often on the talkback switch. And, for folks who are outside of broadcasting, you have a box in front of you. One is the cough switch, it'll cut your microphone if you have to, clear your throat. And the other is the talkback switch, which allows you to speak to the director and the producer. And she's talking to me. She's listening to me. This is all on air. And she's on the talkback switch to give directions. Here are the replays that I want to see, or make sure you build this graphic. I mean, she's just a director, producer, and analyst all in one. And those people are really rare. So, she's great at that. And like you said, the last point, she's an unbelievable trailblazer. I can't tell you how many times we're in an arena, there's a young woman or even, a young girl who will come up and just say, I want to do what you do. Thank you for, blazing this trail. And, it's emotional for her because all she did was put her head down and work hard and be the best version of herself she could be. I don't think she's in it to blaze the trail, but I know she's incredibly proud to be that trailblazer.
And look, it's always been that way with Doris. We've seen her able to do, tremendous interviews on the sidelines and step into the booth, and her knowledge is really next to none. You were talking about how she's on the talkback button. There's a little bit of peeling back the curtain. So I want to continue with that. I think folks would be interested to hear a little bit more about the day in the life of, a broadcaster. What's it looking like? The tips at 7:00. You're the first game on ESPN Radio. The Lakers, are 10:30. You have a 7:00 game. What's your day looking like?
Yeah, my day usually, obviously, it's a culmination of, the week. If I have 2 games that week, I try to manage both within the day. So when I get to game day itself, and especially if it's a 7:00 tip, I know that I have time that all the information I've put into this one particular program, that Broadcaster's Edge, that I buy from, that I can get it printed out by the late morning, and then I'm fine-tuning my charts. I use a legal-sized sheet of paper for each team. I tape them into a legal-sized manila folder, and from there, I have a shell, and then I can add in all my, important nuggets that I find out through the day, maybe some trends that I want to make sure, if it's not on the top of my head, it's easy to find, so I'm not chasing it down or saying, I think, this is their 7th win in 8 games, or I think this will put them in the lead. I want to make sure I can definitively, make statements. So putting all that information together also is keeping me ready for the day, even though, I've been saying since I started this business that I spend all this time on my charts and I only use 5 to 10% of the information. The rest of it, either gets used next time or just hits the cutting floor. But to me, going through the process of putting it together, especially with basketball, where you have to memorize, everybody on both sides, because you can, as opposed to football, where you really do lean on your charts and your spotter. But for basketball, I find that, chart work is important. And then once we get over to the arena, 2-3 hours before the game, then as ESPN Radio, the national rights holder, we have access to both coaches. So we're in the office with each coach for about 10 minutes, get as much information as we can that we couldn't find in the papers or on the internet that, we have when we come on the air, that we can inform people. So that's kind of the last fact-finding mission. And then you're upstairs or down courtside, depending where your location is. And, we'll tape some stuff for the pregame show, maybe get a little bite to eat inside the media room, a little free dinner. And then, you're on your way for your broadcast game. The most important part of your day is now coming up over the next 2 or 3 hours. And it's all based on getting ready for that moment.
And Mark, you've been doing this how many years now? About 25?
Oh, my goodness. My first game that I called on my own was Christmas Day of 1989. So we are now, do the math for me, is that 30?
I can't. I wasn't born. I don't know, dude. I don't know. I wasn't born.
You weren't even born. Yeah, almost. It'll be 35 years, right? That was 89. No, it'll be 34 years this Christmas. Well, it was a minor league basketball game in the CBA, the Albany Patroons, at the Cedar Rapids Silver Bullets who were led by John Starks, who then went on to New York Knicks fame. We had Mario Elie, who then went on to Houston Rockets fame. And George Karl, I think, was our head coach. So, man, that was a long time ago.
And you still remember it like it was yesterday.
I do. Sadly, in a sad note, I got to Cedar Rapids on Christmas Eve, and the headline story that night was Billy Martin, the longtime Yankees manager, since had been retired, died in a car accident on Christmas Eve, 1989. I remember I was my own engineer. I had no analyst. I didn't know what I was doing, but I felt confident. I had a mixer. I had a phone line that plugged into it, so it sounded like crap in Albany, New York, back on the radio station. But I was proud of what I did. My parents couldn't believe it, and that thus began a long career in broadcasting.
I want to throw you a figurative curveball here. I know you do a little baseball as well. I think the shift is the abolishing of the shift is the worst thing to happen to sports in my lifetime. I think it fundamentally changes strategy of the game, and it changes baseball averages, and I don't like it.
You must be an analytics guy, right?
No. I just think you should be able to stand where you want. If you don't like them shifting, hit it the other way. I was at the Met game the other day, Mark. 21-3, the Mets lose. I left after the 7th inning because obviously I had better things to do, and they had about 3 hits. Daniel Vogelbach hits it down the line and goes the other way. It's about the only time I've ever seen anybody do that.
I would say I fundamentally agree with you in that you should be able to play wherever you want. However, as someone who grew up with, you want to hit the ball up the middle, hit to all fields, hit opposite field. And so many times, the shift would kill, any opportunity for balls up the middle. So I agree, you should be able to hit the other way or learn to hit the other way. But I'm a dinosaur, I guess. So it really depends on where you grew up, maybe. I'm learning whether you're for the shift or against the abolition of the shift. Me personally, I don't, I understood it doing it at times, but it was a constant shift, and I don't know, it just didn't feel like baseball to me. So I'm okay with it. I do love the pitch clock and the fact that we've sped up the games. Right. I'm all for that, especially when you're studio host, as I was a couple of weeks ago and will be in a couple of weeks. And
Kevin was off that night? What? You were the studio host.
We got to give Kevin Winter a little vacation. He can't work every game. Come on.
But he's the guy.
He is the guy. I was the guy before him, but he's even more the guy because, I don't know, maybe I was soft, but Kevin will say yes to everything, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. It's good for me because I love when Kevin's my studio host. We have a great rapport together. I know where he's going. He knows where I'm going. But he is a worker. He does not like to sit out.
So you mentioned rapport right there. One of the things I texted you about when you told me you were busy on the golf course for the 11th time was that Marv Albert had a good line about whether he was a good golfer or not when he was asked about it on the air, and he said he preferred the golf courses, with the windmill. And you laughed at that. You thought that was pretty good. And I was talking to my dad about how Marv Albert really was the first one to, really be able to play off of his color analyst and not, have to necessarily be super straight to the point all the time. And I think has, shown that it's okay to have a personality on the air.
Yeah, he brought some humor to it. I was, probably in high school, and I would see him show up on, David Letterman's show. And he would have his, sports plays of the week, which, now we see that every day on ESPN. And, but back then that was, the same thing with This Week in Baseball. You're way too young to know that, but Mel Allen hosted that show. And, not all your own team's games were on TV, let alone seeing other teams play. I got extra innings in the house, and all night long I'm flipping from game to game. Back then you just read about it in the paper or you saw the box score. And so for Marv Albert to do a, 6-minute spot on Letterman on late night and go through, all these plays, that was pretty cool. to see that side of him that he brought as well. But Marv, like I haven't read a lot of books in my lifetime, but I read his autobiography. He was one of the guys that I was listening to in the 70s on a transistor radio as a young kid, listening to Knicks games.
Listen,
and that was
great. It
part
was a great book.
Who I wanted to be, and so I when I got to meet him, and he actually knew my name, and then I would see him, during conference finals or TNT games, and he'd, always come up to me and, address me by Mark, good to see you. I mean, that was just a highlight for me.
And I say this to people who don't know that the best part about broadcasting, really, Mark, is the fraternity. Everybody, except one person I'm thinking of, whose name won't be mentioned, has been extremely nice to me and extremely willing to help me from the time I've been 17 and been reaching out to you. We've been doing this for I don't know 5-6 years. I don't know. Your daughter was going into college the first time we did it, and I was up there in Vermont, and that was 6 years ago. I just the thing that I've always enjoyed about the business is that you guys don't forget where you came from, man.
And I think I probably said it to you 5-6 years ago. We were all in your position at one point, and if you have forgotten, like you said, from whence you came, that's shame on you, because we're all fortunate if we get a few breaks along the way, get to do some things that you always wanted to do, and it actually came true and happened. That you wish it for other people too, and you love to give guidance. And if those young people are actually interested enough to call you up, to have you on a podcast or do an interview, it should be something that you look forward to. If maybe give some wise advice, or at the very least tell your story, because we don't often, we're marching in one direction. You don't often look back and see all the road posts that you left behind that are actually good memories. I hope to live long enough to retire and then think about all the different things that I did along the way and reminisce about them, to myself, to my wife, to my friends, etc.
We talk about a minor league baseball player getting the call. How about when you got the call? You were doing, obviously, games, and eventually you get the call for the big time game. You remember how that went down?
Yeah, I kind of eased into it. I don't know if I ever, had that welcome to the big leagues moment. I would say, I got the job in Cleveland. I was in Albany, which was my home market. And, I'm just trying to survive, get every job I could, whether it be studio or play-by-play. When I got to Cleveland, that was pretty cool that, someone from a major league market thought I was good enough to work at their all-sports station. I think, auditioning for and getting the job at ESPN, and that was just as an update person, that was pretty remarkable. Like, I never thought I'd work at ESPN, mainly because, they didn't have radio, when I started out in this business, and the radio in the 90s was largely weekends, overnights, and the top broadcasters in the business were working it. So how am I going to get in there? So I think, part of their expansion, kind of sliding in at a good time, letting the boss know that I could also do play-by-play, even though what are the odds I'm going to do it with, the Jim Durhams of the world, and the Brent Musburgers, and the Mike Tiricos, and later the Kevin Calabros. Like, how am I ever going to, get into that? And so I think after slowly wearing them down, and they saw enough ability in me that I took on smaller roles, I was able to work myself into the number 2 position. So I think the moment that I would probably say that you're asking about was after the 2016 finals, when the Cavaliers came back and beat the Warriors in 7. Getting the call that Kevin Calabro was leaving to do the Portland Trailblazers full time, and Mike Tirico was leaving the network for NBC, and you're going to be the guy. And it wasn't like you expected and hoped for your whole time. Not that they didn't deliver it correctly, just I didn't process it. I don't think I understood what they were saying.
Right.
I was like, you're the guy. And I'm like, of course I'm the guy. And then later on, about a month later, my boss, who was retiring, congratulated me on it, and I realized, you know what, this is a big deal. I really should, I really should understand that and accept it. And then, my hometown paper, they announced it, like a month later. And I think that was the first time that, that little pride factor set in that, holy cow, you know, I just got the job. How am I going to keep this job? And I remember how nervous I was on that first finals in 2017 working with Hubie Brown. And I think I might have told you, years ago that I kind of felt this pain in my arm about 10 seconds before Kevin Winter was about to toss to me when the national anthem concluded. And I was like, oh my goodness. I just had to tell myself, it's just another broadcast. You've done plenty of these, but it wasn't just another broadcast. But as soon as the game started, all that went away and it was just another game. But I think getting the full-time NBA gig, even though I didn't quite understand what was about to happen, was as close to getting that call as you'll ever get.
Mark Kestich here on Wex On, Wex Off. Mark, appreciate your time. We'll give you two quick ones, two non sequiturs. One of them is a prayer. One of them, I'm not exactly sure what you're going to say. There's the reports have died down, but here I am sitting in my bedroom in Hoboken, New Jersey, praying for Damian Lillard to become a Net. Is there any chance?
There's always a chance. I don't know what's going to happen in the Damian Lillard, I don't want to call it sweepstakes, but, directive to get to Miami. Anything is possible, as Kevin Garnett once famously said. I'm not banking on that one, but who knows?
I forgot the other one, so I'm just going to ask you, were you surprised that Kyrie Irving and the Mavericks were able to reach an agreement, especially with, it didn't go well with Luka at the end of the year?
Yes, I was. Not that it can't work, because they had a game where they both scored 40, but look, Kyrie is at his best when he's at the end of a contract, and he wasn't at his best, down the stretch, and he had some injury. And I was also surprised at how much money he got. I thought we're at the point now where maybe he's on a 1-year or a 2-year. But, look, Dallas made a big move to get him, and they want to make it work. Will it ultimately? I don't know. It's all going to be about the pieces around them. But yes, I was surprised. I thought he was an end as the Laker on a short-term deal.
It's going to be about Kyrie too. Mark, I remembered the question. I'm sure you're ready to go. LeBron or Jordan?
Wow. Someone who was born in 1968, graduated high school in 1986. It is hard not to say Michael Jordan. I mean, he did things for my generation that we had not seen, and he was the best, and it was by a long margin. And I never thought, somebody could come as close to him, but LeBron is awfully close. They're different players. They're different mindsets. LeBron's going to play much longer in terms of years, but what LeBron has done in points and rebounds,
and he's not even a score first guy, Mark. I mean, that's the thing.
He's not a score first, and he has the all-time points record. Some of that is longevity, but still, the fact that he's averaging 25 points per game at age 38, is remarkable. So it's hard. That one's hard for me because it's apples and oranges as far as players. But I think because of the age I am and just how much better Michael was for most of his career than the field, I'm probably still going Jordan.
Mark, I'm going to give you one more. What happened with LeBron in the 2010 finals against the Dallas Mavericks when J.J. Barea was able to lock him down?
Oh, in 2011, yeah. Oh, man, that was look, if you looked at the first game and the first quarter of the second game, it was like, oh, yeah, not one, not two, not three. That's going to happen. And then something happened. Something switched off. I don't know if they lost trust in each other. I don't know if, the moment got too big. Maybe just all credit to Dallas. Maybe Nowitzki and Kidd, and they were ready to have their moment in the sun. But that thing turned. And at that moment in time, leading into the 12 season, you were wondering, all right, this team could be an all-timer, but can they finish it? And they did, and they won 2 titles. But it's hard to put my finger on. Something changed. something happened in mentally, and some of it also was the Mavericks, the greatest season they've had in their history that they finished off. But that thing changed on a dime.
That's the biggest knock against LeBron is that series right there.
Should have won it. I mean, 07, obviously, he led Cleveland by himself.
Right.
You look at the roster, and they went up against an all-time.
An all-time Spurs team. Yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, 11. They lost in 14. Kawhi was, coming on as a young player. 16 was a miracle that they won that one. They could have got off to a good start in 18. That did not go well, obviously, in game one. But you know what? If you want to make that point, Jordan played in 6, and they won all 6. And LeBron has played, I've lost count, how many finals?
I think 9.
9. Was he 4 and 5?
4
or
and
4 and
something
6?
like 4 and yeah.
Something like that. But it's you can take that knock. That's for sure. You could put that in LeBron's category against in the comparison between the two.
He's Mark Kestecher, the voice of the NBA Finals on ESPN Radio. Mark, thank you so much for taking the time. We really appreciate it.
Jason, good to be on with you again.
On the next episode, Jason sits down with Noah Eagle of NBC Sports. This is Wex On, Wex Off.